But now we're moving on to high school Bible teacher Jenny. And we've been covering, if you've been following this channel, her high school lesson, I guess, for lack of better. I think she's been teaching her high school students the 7 reasons why the Bible is reliable from a book that she bought when she was a younger lady. Anyway, we've done all the way up through part 4. And today we're finally on to reason number 5, why the Bible is reliable.
I've been teaching through Erwin Lutzer's book, 7 Reasons Why You Can Trust the Bible. As I am a high school Bible teacher, I've been teaching this to my senior. Reason number 5 is that science supports a biblical creation. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." This single verse refutes all other philosophies regarding the origin and meaning of our universe.
Wait, okay, so in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. That verse, Genesis 1:1, somehow Jenny refutes all other worldviews. So I thought the point of the course and the book was to prove that the Bible is reliable. So that would infer taking external factors and lining those up and saying, hey, look, those align with the Bible. But this week you've started with, I have a verse in the Bible, and when we come into it with the presupposition that that verse is true, anyone who agrees, I'm even on page with her. If you agree with Jenny that the Bible is reliable, then Genesis 1:1 would refute any cosmological origin story that excludes God. But that's the reverse of what you're supposed to be doing here, Jenny. You are supposed to be showing us how everything else tells us the Bible's true, not how, if the Bible is true, everyone else's ideas are wrong. That's you didn't understand the assignment here, I don't think.
There are essentially 2 books of God. There's God's written revelation, which is obviously the Bible. And then there's...
What? Okay. So when I was a Christian, I definitely was on board with this. There's 2 books of Revelation. There's nature, the look at the trees type stuff, where you're supposed to be able to study what God made and learn things about God from that. And then also the second book would be Revelation. But here Jenny said, obviously that's the Bible. Again, the reason, the name of the course is 7 Reasons Why You Can Trust the Bible, not 7 reasons why, if the Bible is true, other people are wrong. You can't just say there's a book of nature and a book of Revelation, and obviously that was the Bible. So you are begging the question in the natural sense. You are assuming the conclusion before you get to the conclusion. This is a bad start.
General revelation, it's in the book of nature. And these books cannot contradict one another.
If they are both true, then they cannot contradict each other, because truth, and I said in the last segment, I'll say it again, if truth is the measure to which a proposition conforms to reality, as adjudicated by predictive power, 2 statements, if they both reflect reality, reality doesn't conflict. That's one of the laws of reasoning. So yeah, if that's actually what you want to do, Jenny, is demonstrate that the laws of nature and the laws of the Bible don't contradict. You cannot just say they don't contradict and make that so, although it's going to get
When
worse.
science is properly studied, we are studying the very works of God. And
When science is properly studied, we are studying the Word of God. So Jenny has now patented a category of science, a category studying the laws of the works of nature, the natural revelation, by saying, if it is done, any science that is done properly will conform to the Bible, thereby creating a category where any science that appears to contradict the Bible isn't real science. You see, this is now a tautology. You are saying science that agrees with only science that agrees with the Bible is science, and therefore science and the Bible agree, therefore the Bible. I hope everyone in the audience, everyone watching, can see that is not a way to actually prove something. That's just a way to say that the things that I agree with are things that I agree with.
there is harmony between the works of God and the words of God. The greater our respect for science, the greater our respect for the scriptures. So can I just take a minute to talk about creation? Let's talk about the earth. There are 15 different Goldilocks factors that make our earth a habitable planet. The moon.
Okay, so now she wants to use the book of nature to perhaps demonstrate something about the Bible. Here's hoping she does. For anyone who has not heard about this Goldilocks zone type argument, this is a type of fine-tuning argument. In a lot of senses has fallen in disfavor, I found, in the last 5 to 10 years. The fine-tuning argument now, for those who are more sophisticated in presenting it, kind of gets down to just the more fundamental laws of physics. So the strong and weak nuclear force, gravity, and I think one or two others tend to be now narrowed down because, again, we're this whole idea that the Earth is in this Goldilocks zone and that there's all these things that were perfectly set up for life on Earth. The more and more we learn about how many planets are out there, the difficulty in getting the combination of things that are required for life doesn't seem so much like Earth would be necessarily the only one that has that, because we now know of trillions of stars, and among all those, that's obviously tens of trillions of planets probably, and it seems more and more likely that there are other planets that have similar things. It also is a weird argument, seemingly saying that the kind of life we have on Earth is the only kind of way life could be, which is, of course, another ridiculous argument. Human life could only be, but it has a very limiting, narrow factor that Jenny's going to get into. But there are other potential types of life that are probably equally valuable and cool and worth living. Anyway, the Goldilocks zone, again, if you're not familiar with the Goldilocks and Three Bears, it's that idea of the porridge is too hot, the porridge is too cold, but the porridge is just right. It's always that middle perfect zone for the Earth. Anyway, let's see what Jenny thinks the Earth Goldilocks zones are. And yeah, this is going to be bad.
Pull, water, carbon, along with 17 other chemical elements that are necessary just to build simple bacteria.
Okay, so water and carbon are needed to build the kind of bacteria we see. Sure. Does Jenny think that there's something about the Earth that makes it unique to have carbon? Because carbon exists pretty much everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but carbon can exist in a lot of places that are even hostile to life, frankly. We don't need the Earth to have carbon, so I'm not sure exactly what planets Jenny thinks she's eliminating by bringing up carbon. Water, different matter. We don't see water on all bodies of rock that are out in space, or not necessarily rock, but just anything we see. So yeah, it seems like water may have a more narrow band, but yeah, carbon not a big deal.
And then for humans, we need another 9 element.
And again, it doesn't really matter what kind of elements humans need, because life can theoretically evolve very differently than needs to produce humans. If your argument is about planets that can produce humans, that's a different thing, but who cares?
Of there being another planet like ours in the universe is 1 in 700 quintillion.
1 in 700 quintillion, everybody. Quintillion. So I am just going to take Jenny at her word on all the stats she's going to use today. But like, I've seen the Drake equation style calculus before, where they try and factor in more and more of the things to maybe decide what kind of features the planet would need to have to support life, or life maybe as we know it. I don't buy the number she just quoted, 700 quintillion or whatever. You get into again, she seems to be saying that carbon alone is somehow rare. Like, if she's adding that in, this is just problematic. I would need to see the work. But again, it doesn't really matter to me how many planets are out there that can support life, because I'm guessing even statistically, no matter how you realistically get to it, there's more than one planet in the universe that qualifies for whatever effects you want to give, unless you're deliberately looking to exclude it. But here's the thing. It is not surprising that we find life only on planets that can support life, and that life is evidence of life-supporting planets. Again, not surprising, and not God needed for anything there. What would be more surprising? What would be more of an evidence for God? What is if we were somehow a species of creature in God's likeness that lived on a planet that naturally could not sustain life? If the human population found themselves on Neptune, and we discovered that by all laws of nature, we shouldn't be alive on Neptune because it's too cold and the orbit's too far away, and hey, we don't even have water to drink, but we still need, like, that would be miraculous and amazing. What is not miraculous and amazing is that life exists on a planet where life can exist. That is the unremarkable thing. So no matter how much the fine-tuning people layer on well, what about this factor? And what about that factor? And isn't that cool? And isn't that amazing? No, no, because we wouldn't be here to observe it otherwise. What you need to do is not appeal to emotions of how special we are and how rare you can make it sound. What you need to do is demonstrate that those factors couldn't come into play through a naturalistic means. That is not, again, Jenny doesn't understand the assignment on this particular issue.
That's a 7 with 20 zeros after it. This planet that we live on is a huge ball covered with water, rock, and soil and surrounded by air. It's like a baseball hurling through the universe, flying at 66,000 miles per hour.
It doesn't matter how fast we're moving. So, interesting factoid is that the Earth has not been orbiting at the same speed its whole history. They can tell that the Earth used to be orbiting faster. Like the days were actually shorter, and possibly the dinosaurs, for example, had 19 or 20-hour days, not 24-hour days. So the rate of spinning, again, we have adapted to an Earth that does rotate that fast and does spin that fast and has a day cycle based on roughly our 24 hours, that kind of thing. But again, it doesn't need a god for any of that.
Flying around the sun while also spinning in circles at the same time, 1,000 miles an hour. It sounds like the worst barf ride imaginable at a theme park. They all whirl you around in circles, but the worst ones are the ones that are whirling you around in circles while whirling you around in a circle. But it doesn't.
That was new to me. I have never heard of them called barf rides. Perhaps that's a regional American thing. I'm not sure. Do you, at your parks and your fairs and your amusement centers, do you call them barf rides? So that's new to me. Doesn't make it seem more appealing.
Even feel like we're moving because everything is moving with us. And there's this handy little thing called gravity that keeps us from flying off of this ball.
So I'm now wondering if Jenny thinks that gravity exists only on Earth. Does Jenny see video of astronauts floating around in space and think, oh, only Earth has gravity? And perhaps she doesn't understand that gravity is relative to mass and to that kind of thing, and that all planets have gravity in their own way. They have different strengths of gravity, some stronger than the Earth, some weaker. Gravity is one of these forces that is pervasive. The fact that mass attracts mass is one of those, if Jenny knew a little better, one of the elements of fine tuning that she actually should be appealing to, not this Goldilocks zone of the Earth. And the idea that, isn't it amazing that we found the one planet where gravity works? Because, yeah, no, even on Mars, we would be held down. It's not like if we land on other planets that the spin sends all of our rover landers flying off into space. Gravity works everywhere, Jenny.
Also, without gravity, the planet and the stars would just be flying all over the place, bumping into each other. They don't even got.
Well, I guess that's true. But if it wasn't for gravity, we wouldn't have planets and stars and various other things. Like we actually needed. I mean, I guess if Jenny just thinks that God spoke and things can be sticky and adhere without gravity, that's one thing. But it's pervasive. It's everywhere.
This moon that God created for us talks about this in Genesis 1:14-16. This is Earth's own little natural satellite and constant companion. It follows the Earth, and the moon's gravity maintains the Earth's tilt at 23.5 degrees, which.
So, again, life doesn't require a moon. A moon has been helpful for our particular existence, but we would have evolved differently without a moon. It's not like we would have evolved not at all.
Creates their season. Without this tilt, the temperature variations on our planet would be much greater. Then
we could deal with much greater temperature variations. So different parts of the world have different temperature variations, and it's not a problem. We would just cluster into the parts of the world where we can survive. That's just how that would work.
We've got the sun. The sun is our star in our solar system. It's our closest one. And the sun is.
Okay. She just seems to be excited about science, I guess. Random factoids. Yes, we have one star. We have, by definition, all planets would have a star that is closest to them, or at least closest to them at any given moment. This is not evidence of anything.
So huge that the Earth would fit inside of the sun 1 million times.
Well, I think if you put the Earth into the sun the first time, we'd all be dead. But that's neither here nor there. The fact that the sun is 1 million times bigger than us by that number, and I'm not sure it's correct, but we'll go with it. Again, unremarkable. let's say the sun was half the size. That's fine. We would then need to be a different distance away for this, again, for this Goldilocks zone. That's why this Goldilocks zone thing is entirely arbitrary, because if you pull one lever and make, a different size star, obviously changes how close a planet would need to be for like a human supporting temperature range might be, right? Of course, another problem here with what Jenny's talking about is that we don't have a cylindrical, we don't have a circular orbit around the sun. It's an ellipsis. So at certain times we're closer to the sun than others, and it's not a problem. There's obviously a pretty big range in which we're fine. So again, all of these numbers that she's just throwing out, she likes to throw out big numbers or what seems like shocking numbers. If you raise your eyebrows high enough, then the numbers become surprising. No, these have nothing to do with whether or not the Earth had to be specially made for life. And it's just demonstrating that Earth is a place that supports life, which again should be non-contentious.
If we were any closer to the sun in our solar system, we would burn up. Any further away, we'd freeze. Not this little.
No, as I just mentioned, how far we are from the sun varies during our orbits, so it's not like this tiny little blip. We could have quite a variance in our orbit and not burn up nor freeze. Obviously, you don't want to be frozen most of the time or burning up most of the time. Unsurprising.
A family of 8 planets in our solar system, along with the sun and a few other dwarf planets, a few asteroids, some comets, and gravity holds this family together as we orbit around the sun.
Do you think that gravity doesn't work in other solar systems, Jenny? Our system is not special because of gravity.
Stars. Just real quick about the stars. Stars are in every direction out in outer space, above, below, left, right. We live in the
Right. So every planet, again, I'm just driving back because you wanted to talk about Goldilocks zone. Every planet that we're aware of has stars in all directions. It doesn't matter if you go to Alpha Centauri, there's also stars in every direction. Every galaxy has stars in every other direction. Theoretically, I guess you get to an edge planet, but I mean, let's just go with virtually all planets have stars in every direction. Not something unique about Earth at this point anymore.
Milky Way galaxy with 100 billion stars. And that's a small galaxy compared to other galaxies. There are an estimated 10 million additional galaxies, each with hundreds of millions of stars.
Those numbers feel low to me, but I'm not going to argue them. I don't know. But all you're doing, Jenny, is at this point you are making the case that there are so many stars and so many galaxies and thereby probably so many other planets, that it is unlikely that Earth is unique in being Goldilocks in that way, even for human life, let alone any other kinds of life that may evolve in other places. So that's not an argument saying that there is or isn't life on those planets, but the chances that there isn't even another planet that could support us, if we could somehow survey the entire universe, seems remotely low given the numbers and the stats that you're throwing out.
33, it says that God just breathed these stars out. I am not even close to being done talking about this. Watch for part 2.
She had to go to part 2, folks. Fortunately, we have part 2 all queued up and ready.
Part 2 talking about the 5th reason why we can trust the Bible, because science supports a biblical creation. In the first part, I just said a few words about the earth, the moon, the sun, the stars. Ran out of
You said about as many words as you could, though, in the time allotted. So well done.
time talking about the stars, because obviously there's 100 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and there are an estimated 10 million galaxies, each with hundreds of millions of stars.
So again, she's talking about, I didn't quite catch the numbers there, but she was talking about how the quintillion, which was 20 zeros, now she's talking about billions of stars, which is 9 zeros. And did you say there's hundreds of millions of stars in each of those billions? So that would be 8 zeros, I guess. So 8 plus 9, 7. So we got 17. We got 17 zeros. We're almost up to our 20. Jenny, all you need is for each of those systems to have 1,000 planets, and we're actually there to get to the number that you went with. I'm guessing it wasn't correct.
Sun is extremely small compared to other stars that they have discovered, such as the Canis Majoris. Have you heard about that one? Go look it up. It's monstrous.
All right. So let's go for a second to, it's not showing my screen here. Tonight is going poorly. Okay, well, we don't need to see it. We'll go back. Oh, I've broken everything. Neat. Okay, so Canis Majoris, we again makes no difference. So Canis Majoris is the largest star that we have identified so far. It's a red giant, and it's massively huge. And I was going to show you the Wikipedia page with pictures and all that kind of thing. But it doesn't matter how big or small the solar system, the sun is, as we discussed already earlier. I can't imagine any universe that has stars that doesn't have a biggest star. By definition, one of them's going to be the biggest. And we don't even know that Canis Majoris is the biggest. It's the biggest that we're aware of. So again, Jenny, none of this is demonstrating why the Bible is correct. None of this is demonstrating even why we need a God. You need to be relating this to the Bible, not a general case for intelligent design. This is a course about why the Bible's reliable. Or am I wrong? Am I missing the point here? Seems we're pretty way off base.
So we are faced with a decision. Do we believe that the universe came from some kind of cosmic jackpot, or that God spoke and created the universe with order, design, and predictability?
Okay, well, that's a false dichotomy, of course. That there's a designer God that created it with order and stability versus just the randomness. Those are not the only two options, of course. Science would generally say that material has properties, and anything material is going to follow those properties. And so it's entirely unremarkable that our universe consistently keeps those properties. What would be remarkable, similar to how it would be remarkable if we found life on a planet that didn't support life, that would be proof of God for sure. If God created a universe where things weren't predictable, that would be the evidence for him. A materialistic world, uniformity is what we expect. We expect there to be crazy non-uniform things going on when God is intervening and playing with his universe and interfering and intervening and doing all those kind of things. So Jenny and the theists generally have this wrong, even though she's getting further and further away from whether God exists. Yes, she just kind of admitted. So she just kind of said, hey, you're just kind of down to what kind of worldview do you like or want or prefer or think is reasonable. We are no longer talking about the Bible. We're just talking about what intuitively feels good to Jenny versus what intuitively feels good to us.
If we believe that the universe came to be from impersonal random forces, we have to
I do believe the universe came from impersonal forces, or that it was shaped by impersonal forces. I do not think they were random. Again, matter, energy have properties. Those properties, as best we've ever been able to observe, and the way we observe things that seems what happened in the past, that those properties have been consistent. So not random. In fact, the opposite of random. There is chance elements when it comes down to individuals, but there's not so much chance when it gets to the larger scales. I don't know if any of you are watching Foundation. The new series started this last week. One of the that talks about mathematical models of the future. And again, one of the things of the show is, well, the math and the probability can't really tell us anything about how an individual is going to act. Sometimes the conceit of the show is that when your mathematical models get large enough over large enough populations, you can kind of predict what a population's going to do. That's neither here nor there. I just enjoyed watching Foundation the other day. So sorry about that. Bit of a plug for a show. But again, where was I with Jenny here? Oh, Jenny just wants to say, well, I'm going to keep
believe something that is contrary to all known laws of science. Matter cannot create itself, let alone organize itself into complex arrangements needed for life.
That is demonstrably not true. You can watch matter organize itself in all kinds of ways. Matt, we already touched on strong and weak nuclear force, gravity, all those kind of things. Those are examples of forces and procedures and the way ener- matter energy organizes itself. And it even organizes itself into other complex things like carbon-based molecules, which are the basis of biology. Other chemicals it organizes itself into. Like, these are not surprising things. Or even, say, for example, wind and impersonal force can organize loose papers into a pile somewhere, or, rivers can wash things away. Like, impersonal forces absolutely can organize the material world. Like, that is just a weird claim to say it can't.
Is way more rational and believable and scientific to believe in a creator.
No, because a creator doesn't answer any question that science poses. Science isn't trying to get to ontology or get beyond, the first moments of the Big Bang, for example, or ask those questions as to why. Science is asking how. Science is asking for predictable outcomes. So it's not even the purview of science to say that there is a creator. So believing in a creator doesn't somehow make your science better or worse, because science is a study of the material world. The material world, by definition, for scientific purposes, rightly or wrongly, excludes the supernatural world. It's called methodological naturalism. So, no, Jenny, belief in God is irrelevant to your scientific endeavors.
Evolutionists believe that matter can think.
Evolutionists believe that matter can think. Jenny apparently is not an evolutionist, which is just a weird word in and of itself. Jenny would probably deny evolution, which is fine. But does Jenny think that she is not made of matter? Because if Jenny is made of matter, and if she thinks she is thinking, then Jenny accepts that matter can think. Are computers, are AI systems thinking in some sense? Because that, again, is matter thinking. You can build coin sorting machine that in and of itself is making decisions. I mean, at the most rudimentary level, coin sorting machines are thinking. So, and punch card machine, like Alan Turing built, are thinking in their own, like, depends your definition of thinking, but I think we all would agree humans are made of matter and humans are thinking. Therefore, matter can think, Jenny. You're in the same boat, I hope.
Is far more logical to conclude that a super intelligent created beings with the ability to think. We have
No, I mean, I get why that's intuitively feels good to think that intelligence comes from intelligence. You are stuck with this notion of, well, then what created, if you want to say that intelligence must be created by another intelligence, then what created the intelligence, your God? And just saying, well, that's a category error, or, the I've defined my God as saying he doesn't need a beginning. Well, fine, but you didn't actually, then you're denying your own premise that evidence demands or intelligence demands an intelligent cause, because you have to terminate that infinite regress at some point.
a creator that is a God of awesome power. The cause must be greater than the effect in God.
No, the cause does not need to be greater than the effect. That's absolutely not correct. A match does not need to be greater than the forest fire that it unleashes. A pebble does not need to be greater than the avalanche that its shift ultimately caused. We can go on with examples where the cause is not greater than the effect. I don't know why Christians say that. It doesn't bear out in the world, and I don't know how it rings true to them.
God is supremely powerful, not limited to this incredibly vast creation that he's made. This is just a little thing he made called the universe. He exists outside of it, and he is supremely powerful, keeping.
Yeah, those are things you're saying about your God, and you learned those from a Bible. Jenny, have you forgotten that the point you were making was supposed to be telling us how we know that the Bible is reliable, not putting forth your own case for intelligent design? Because intelligent design could be 100% correct and that have no bearing on whether your Bible is correct. The Muslims would affirm intelligent design in general. Lots of religions, any theistic religion would affirm, some level of intelligent design. That's not an argument for your Bible. We have gone astray.
Our planet suspended out into nothing
All we like sheep have gone astray.
in space. But God is incredibly personal. He created us, humans, in his.
Not necessarily. Like the evidence isn't that a God created us personally. The evidence, even for intelligent design, may well be that just some weird deistic God kicked it all off and walked away and never looked at it again. We're on a shelf that with dust and we've never been observed. So again, you're just asserting this personal nature.
Image with the ability to have rational thought, to make moral choices, and to artistically create, to have.
I'm not going to go into all those things, but no, again, you're bringing into things that just seem like they're just natural byproducts of being somewhat intelligent, having minimal intelligence levels all of a sudden creates you to think rationally and to perhaps have artistic, creative endeavors. Humans are not alone in this. For example, other animals can do creative things. So, sorry, Jenny,
social relationships and love, to laugh. Imagine putting little very
to laugh, to laugh. Like, how low is this bar? Just again, you're just at the point where it's look at the trees. It's literally everything that exists to you just instinctively tells you there's a God. We are here for evidence that the Bible is reliable.
bits of metal into a barrel, shaking the barrel for a million years until all of a sudden, by some chance, it just forms a wristwatch.
Tell me you have no idea what the theory of evolution posits without telling me that you have no idea what the theory of evolution posits. If you listening to this today thinks that throwing metal in a barrel and shaking it for a million years and checking inside to see if a watch came out is in any way analogous to biological evolution, you do not understand what biological evolution posits. You will never convince someone who accepts biological evolution that you are correct. And if you want to win that argument, you will at least need to go out and learn what it is, why that is a terrible example. Descent with modification is not possible within a barrel, or nor with metal. And so it's just not analogous. And you've demonstrated now, Jenny, that anyone who does understand these things can just ignore everything you say. Unfortunately, I'm guessing your high school students are not among them. I'm guessing that in your high school, you do not teach them, even if you want to fight against it, an accurate portrayal of biological evolution.
Chances of that happening are far greater than cells randomly forming a human being.
But yeah, so cells don't randomly form a human being. I don't know how you're imagining that evolution biologists imagine that life happens, but they are not thinking, hey, there were a handful of cells lying around. They had human DNA, and all they were lacking was to be in close proximity to each other to form a human. No, that's not how any of this works.
Listen, I'm a mom, and I have given birth to 4 children. The last 2 came at once because they were twins. Let's
I do not want to think about any of that.
just table that miracle for a second and talk about breast milk. The fact that I was able to give birth
Also, do not want to think about that, Jenny.
to these babies, and then my
Did you bring this up in your high school class?
body miraculously started producing the perfect substance to sustain their lives, that did not just happen by chance.
So Jenny's imagining that there were creatures out there that were giving birth to live young, and up until some point, to some random point, these creatures had no way of feeding their young. Somehow they kept breeding though, and kept having more children, even though there was no way to feed them. It's just, or maybe they just had terrible ways to feed them, and one day, boom, the first mother had mammary glands, and the first breasts just appeared out of nowhere. Like, this is, again, Jenny, you're demonstrating that you don't understand how evolution works. I don't have time to go into it in any kind of detail, but obviously, mammary glands and all those kind of things came upon the scene far sooner than humans, far deeper back. And Google it. Hey, why not Google it? Evolution of breastfeeding. And you probably would learn some really cool stuff.
We have an intelligent designer that organized our bodies in this way. He had this beautiful, perfect plan where things were going to work together. Goodness, I could have a whole TikTok just on intelligent design.
A whole TikTok. What is a unit of TikTok? Because that sounds like TikToks. I think they can last a minute. No, they used to only last a minute. Now they can be 5 minutes or something, or maybe you can have a live stream. But a whole TikTok on intelligent design. That's not a unit of measurement that we use for a persuasive case, shall we say.
Do it, please. I would be delighted to follow. God created.
Oh, delighted to follow. So maybe she means an entire TikTok channel. Is that what they call them on the TikTok? A channel? Again, I don't know what a unit of TikTok is, so I don't know.
Created this universe. And Hebrews 1:3 tells us that he upholds all things by the word of his power. All of creation is telling you of its creator. Open your eyes. But more importantly,
So we've just we're not even talking about the Bible anymore. We're not talking about why it's reliable. Just look at the trees. All of creation is telling you there's a God. So you should be intuiting that there's a God, and yay.
Open your heart, because there's none so blind that will not see.
And that was the end of that. So none so blind that will not see. So again, putting it back on the disbeliever, it's not that the Christian or the theist in this case needs to put forth enough evidence for us to be convinced or anything like that. No, we are going to blame the non-believer for being stubborn and for not believing because just willfully don't wanna. And the evidence for it is feelings, I guess. All right, Jenny. Well, that was number 5. If you're watching this on the replay or a clip, I will probably have had a link somewhere to go to parts 1 through 4. And in future shows, we will get to part number 6. We're winding her down. There's only 7 parts. We're over halfway. Are you convinced that the Bible's reliable? Did all those stats that may or may not be true about the universe convince you that the Bible's true? Let me know in the comments and in the super chats.